Audio. All right, here we go. Hello, anybody who's already here and everybody's watching the recording afterwards. Let me just get everything set up. All right, just missing that. That's already muted. Synchronize these two. That looks good. This is ready. Bookmarks are ready. Epic 10 is up and running. Sorry for running this a bit later than I normally would have again, though not as late as the last time, thankfully. So I'm going to take another sip of water, and while we give everybody a few minutes to show up, I'll go over some of the lesser stuff, some of which is actually good news for once, and some of which isn't, or might kind of be neutral depending on your point of view of things. And then we'll talk about the main things, which is predominantly just Iran related stuff. And this is, since not a lot of huge impacts that was different from just a few days ago happened, this will probably be a short one again, unless people start asking stuff and I go off on like side tangents for like 10 hours. Okay, so while we give everyone a few minutes to show up, let's do a quick run into prices. So, gold almost, almost hit $5,000 an ounce, predominantly running on market panic over potential geopolitical situations and over economic numbers not looking all that great across many nations. As remember, you might be familiar with a lot of countries, especially the larger economies like Europe and even most in East Asia now. I've kind of been like flat, plateauing, wobbly for a bit. But if you adjust that for inflation, then, the start of those plateaus back in the early 2010s was technically a decently higher value of money than where they're at now. And so some of the growth that's been happening recently in some of them has only really just like brought them back up to that original value. So as the end of, what was initially cultishly for a century and a half believed to be a endless future of eternally ever expanding economic boom growth globally, as that reality is starting to finally hit the brick wall inside of most intelligent people's minds, that's adding on a level of like broader scale long term market anxiety on top of the anxiety that's arisen from everything else, like all the various conflicts, supply disruptions, and everything, potential tariff threats in many regards across different items, which have different countries conducting mass purchases and mass buys right now of different things because they want to buy as much as they can before potential 30 to 50+% price increases happen. And also, in terms of the precious metals, there is the upcoming Taiwan situation, which you might not think would involve a lot of gold specifically, but it's not the fact that that would disrupt gold. It's the fact that China has been, and not just gold, but also silver and the platinum group metals as well, has been rapidly ramping up their purchases of the various precious metals, gold, silver, platinum, etc., to increase their bank holdings so that they can shore themselves up for the, at least to some extent, from the inevitable economic blowback that's going to come from this whole adventure once they start it. Similar to how they've been over importing oil, as they've been importing like 20 plus million barrels a day since the start of summer last year, 2025, whereas their demand is only usually between 17 and not even 18 anymore, but between 17 and 17 and a half. They've been over importing the oil specifically to bulk up their strategic reserves so that they have enough to run on reduced demand levels, at least for some time, while their imports get disrupted, as no shipping company is going to run any vessels through that region. So they're only going to be able to get stuff through very narrow windows into their northern ports, which can't import as much. And they'll only be able to export things from those northern ports or send stuff south through like Vietnam to then get exported from Vietnam's ports, which is part of why you're going to see a lot of product disruptions worldwide from stuff not being able to get out of China as quickly. Not because it's going to stop being manufactured, because China is going to want to keep making stuff and keep selling stuff, because being the world's factory, whether it's for cheaper appliances, for parts that unfortunately get used in better appliances, or just for cheap plastic toys, they want to keep doing that even while doing this, because doing that is what makes the money, but they're going to be constrained. So they're going to be limited on how much goes out and on how much oil gets in. So that's why they're doing that overbuying, and also why they're doing the over purchasing of gold, silver, and platinum right now, so that they can shore up their bank reserves of everything. And silver hit triple digits, hit $103 per ounce, which is not yet. It is well beyond their nominal record for silver prices, but it's not yet at the real value record. That's around 140 or 150. If you adjust the 1980 or 1979 record for inflation into current dollars. But silver's jumping up for similar reasons as mentioned with gold, but also the big silver drive is because of actual increasing silver demand, predominantly from solar panels, at least originally from solar panels, but now also the sudden data center construction boom and all the computer stuff that requires from the AI craze that's going on, because the bubble still exists for the moment, while the AI industry exists effectively as an Ouroboros, where most of the funding is coming from AI companies ordering from and investing in each other in like a big giant financial circle jerk. And also, I forgot EVs, because I've mentioned before there was big celebration sometime last year or the year before that where we found a way to like make EV batteries decently more efficient and able to, uh, I believe it was specifically they're able to be recharged faster than they previously were, or these new models are that are now being manufactured. But the downside of that is that these new battery packs, uh, part of the way they achieved this new efficiency is that they are now going to be using a lot of silver. So that's yet another new source of silver demand that's added onto that. Meanwhile, you're all familiar with by this point, because I talk about it all the time, silver production from mines worldwide peaked in 2015 and had a brief little bit where it stopped falling but has resumed falling and is now down by about 10 to 12% from the 2015 levels. And that has global silver inventories above ground dropped from at the height of things about 2 billion ounces down to now somewhere around only 800 million. Will probably go down by another 100 to as much as 200 million over the course of this year yet again. And then you have platinum, which has almost hit $2,800 per ounce, as platinum is suffering from severe supply disruptions now, as the situation in South Africa continues to death spiral, since they've gone one by one power grid is was in a death spiral for a while, and that has gotten worse. And that situation carried over into their rail network, and then that is also carried into over into their water distribution system, and now it has made it into the mining industry as well. There, that's an excavator claw. That's the best mining excavator you're going to get out of me. Now it's made it into the mining industry for like long story short, and so that's causing production shortfalls, output problems, along with the output problems from the decaying industry in Russia since they've gotten cut off from the outside world. And all of that, plus the market panic from all the different stuff going on, like Venezuela over there, the Ukraine stuff still going on, the Iran stuff about to start, the sudden spooked situation in Syria, the Libyan civil war almost restarting a little while ago, the deterioration of the situation in northern Nigeria, and the fact that Taiwan is right around the corner. That has the market in a pretty decent level of constant panic now. Okay, so that's all that regarding prices. That should have been enough time for people to show up. Let's see, 14. Yeah, that's roughly average. That should be everybody. Okay, so again, primary only real thing where stuff has happened. Stop disconnecting from the charger. You better not disconnect. The primary thing that happened over the last 3 days is just Iran related stuff. So, uh, Abraham Lincoln strike, carrier strike group has arrived and, was being like publicly tracked. But the, uh, sorry, hold on. My brain is working, I promise. Pentagon put out a like statement saying it wasn't going to arrive. A few hours ago, they stated it wasn't going to arrive for another week, which is it's got really low effort disinfo because it was already right about here, like 2 or 3 days ago on like publicly available tracking. So by all means, it's there now. It is already there. So that's ready. And a whole bunch of other stuff has been moving in. I've had C-17 flights bringing in various air defense assets, Patriot systems, and other things. You can't hear me making the rocket launch noises, but also in-air refueling aircraft have been coming in. Squadrons of F-15s and other combat aircraft have been coming in. Even the UK is apparently going to throw itself in quietly. They didn't like. They were kind of against the potential regime change stuff publicly, but they've flown. They've flown a number of combat jets in too, so it looks like they're actually going to jump in on this one. Along with, let's see, what was the other big thing? Oh, yeah. The the various major airlines have over the past few hours suddenly announced that they are going empty sky. They are shutting down flights to and from the Middle East, not just in and out of Iran, the few ones that go in and out of Iran, but they're not going to be going anywhere in the Middle East. Again, the major carriers at least have suddenly suspended flights to and from any location in the general, like, Arabian portion of the Middle East. So stuff in and out of Turkey, Egypt, and North Africa and stuff that's still going on, but the broader Arabian region of the Middle East is now going dark in terms of commercial flights. So can usually be a good indicator that those running such companies were given some advance notice that something's about to happen. So that might be interpreted as it's going to happen or at least start this weekend, because it's not like it would be an overnight one night thing, unless it does end up being a one night thing. But that that is a development from just the last few hours. So those skies are gradually shutting down. And, with how things have worked in the past, probably, it would end up, don't you make that thing? Don't you make that buffering? Okay. Probably end up starting like literally an hour after I stop the stream, as that's what's happened in the past. I don't remember that happened with the Ukraine invasion or not. I don't think, no, I wasn't doing streams majorly back then yet. But the first Iran stuff, like the invasion of Gaza, the Venezuela operation, the India Pakistan conflict briefly lighting up for a couple of days. There's a consistent pattern of whenever stuff does happen, it usually seems to somehow start like within an hour or two of right after I end some particular stream, typically one on a Thursday or Friday, because the weekend seems to be the preferred time to start wars, because the market shock won't be as bad if you started on the weekend. So that's the point at which things have come to. So it might be about to happen or it might not. I did get an update slightly on the number of citizens killed in Iran. It was 12K, but now it looks like it ended up being more like 16K, with the rough estimate of internal security forces killed by those participating in the uprising is still around 500. But if, more stuff happened since then that raised the citizenry death count, then probably the security force death count is also a bit higher than the previous 500 number, but that's the only one that's like still out there. So as the title says, we're just waiting for it to start or not start. But considering both the U.S. long-term strategically and quietly, uh, unspokenly, despite what they tell their populations, most of Europe wanting as well, along with most of the rest of the Middle East, or at least the Arabian region. This is kind of in the government-wise, everybody wants this scenario. So the likelihood that it's going to end up not ever happening is really, really low. Let's see. Last June, why it wasn't done in a actual toppling manner last June was because the population of Iran last June was not in the middle of a fiery uprising against the government. That was last June was Israel and the US bombing Iran primarily to eliminate the nuclear program, eliminate a lot of their uh, Air Force, whatever portions of it actually existed, and their air defense assets in preparation for doing something like this now, but also for wiping out the nuclear program and observing via stealth drones like the Sentinel or the White Bat or whatever at like 200,000 feet, satellites and everything, observing movements and behavior on the ground afterwards to see if we get in any indications, if any indications that Iran does have stuff on hand that it could use if we do try to topple them completely. Like we were watching to, see if they, when they were trying to get stuff out of that tunnel complex, if they did, if any of the trucks or any of the dollies they rolled out coming out of there did suddenly roll out with a, like, an actual nuclear warhead in the bed of the truck or whatever, or to see what it looked like they could recover out of there so that we could get a good look and have an idea of how far they could potentially try to rush things towards any form of even just crude, quick, uh, little man, fat boy represent or little boy, fat man weaponization. If they did intend to try to do that real quickly in response to us attempting a toppling in case said toppling fails. But now, since the actual population of Iran, because of how quickly the situation internally has deteriorated over the last 2 years economically, since the population is so angry and is in the middle of an uprising, now is when the most opportune window seems to have presented itself to the powers that be. And again, to have this go well, have it go in the way you want, you would have to make sure you explicitly only target internal security force related stuff and Revolutionary Guard stuff, uh, and or and or bomb the Ayatollah's building or whatever, but not take out critical public infrastructure. And even for the most part, it would be in our better interest to not hit or bomb anything related to the regular Iranian military either. Because remember, the military and the Revolutionary Guard are two different things. Just like how there was, how in back in Nazi Germany, there was the Wehrmacht and then there was the SS. They were both part of the German Reich's military machine, but they were two very different things. The SS were like the dedicated card carrying Nazi ones who like swore the oath of like super undead Nazi zombie allegiance to Hitler and stuff. The Revolutionary Guard are like the segment of the military, the third of it or so, roughly in terms of size compared to the whole military at large, that supposedly at least really believes in the cause. The cause being whatever whatever the regime bends it to at any given time. Because I mean, in the early days after the revolution, it was like the cause was like a Islamic revolution, and they like kind of even intended for that to like spread outward through the rest of the world. Now the cause is kind of just correlates around keeping Iran as a strong, like isolated cinder block of pseudo Islam in the midst of a world that does not want it. But regardless of how nebulous the cause is, the RG does believe in the cause, whatever it happens to be. Okay. Yeah, nah, Franz Joseph would not be able to recreate anything. Everybody around here kind of hates each other now, or not all explicitly like everyone hates everybody else, but you got your main people who are super antagonistic, primarily Orban, uh, acting on behalf of Hungary, Magyarország, and Slovakia. Slovensko has even been kind of iffy. Yeah, they get along. They get along with Chesko, with the Czechs. Hungary and Austria kind of have a bit of an issue with each other. They did during the Empire as well. They actually almost had a civil war many times. But then, Slovenia, Croatia, or Hrvatska, Bosnia and Serbia and Western Romania are not, and certainly no parts of Poland are, they're not going back into that. I know it was just meant to be a joke, but still. Okay. So unless anything comes up, I'm going to go through the few positive developments that have come about recently. One centers around Kazakhstan, which continues going up in many regards: quality of life, economic output, average incomes, everything. So, Kazakhstan has seen its jewelry production, its jewelry manufacturing go up by 41% over the previous year, which is, you know, a high a high revenue a high revenue earning industry and high income industry for those involved in it, as many jewelry makers have begun migrating production out of some other locales, cough China, cough. uh, Especially this one China really did to themselves with the sheer amount of fake counterfeit jewelry that was constantly getting caught coming in shipments and stuff. So this one is not necessarily related to the China Taiwan stuff because jewelry is small and not it doesn't it's not you're not loading like entire thousands of shipping containers of it at a time. It can be shipped out in, any direction on aircraft. It wouldn't be really affected by the shipping constraints once Taiwan starts. This is more, this is more like kind of a reputation preservation thing that the various jewelry manufacturers are trying to relocate from China to somewhere else and have, hopefully somewhere else where the workers and the local managers or overseers of the production will not pump up numbers by making, fake jewelry and stuff, making rings out of pyrite or pyruvite. I forgot which one specifically, but the fool's gold. So exclusively this much gold is sent to you. This is how many rings or necklaces should come out. Uh, you know, Not this much gold is sent to you and you somehow made twice as many because you mixed in a bunch of pyruvite with it. So Kazakhstan has seen its jewelry manufacturing shoot up by 41% as relocation of various industries continues. And it's going to see something like a 25+% increase in various types of vehicle and machinery manufacturing, from cars to trucks to agricultural machinery, as what ones were still in Russia are migrating out of Russia, and even, catch this one, Russian vehicle manufacturers themselves are starting to relocate their own production to Kazakhstan because Russia can't get any of the stuff. It's cut off from quite a bit. So we'll do a sad face, smiley face because the government demands you pretend everything's okay. So Kazakhstan is in a reaping the benefits whirlpool right now of various types of activity. Tunisia, Tunisia, some bad news and some good news. So they had flooding rains a lot that did kill some people, but on a somewhat brighter side of things, they did boost the water levels, just like 2 or 3 days of rain. The nationwide, all the water storage systems, all the dams, and everything combined, we're at roughly 30% or so, a better position than the last 2 years. But just 2 or 3 days of heavy rain brought them up so far, at least, to 33%. And, all of the various runoff down slopes and everything has obviously not even finished yet. So hopefully it should end up like back up to 34 or 35. So Tunisia is scraping by, managing to escape the water black hole again temporarily. And Tunisian security forces they neutralized a terrorist cell. Neutralized is the kind new semi-censored newspeak word for they were wiped out. They neutralized the terrorist cell before they were able to do anything. So Tunisia continues to hold its place rightfully as the the safest of the North African countries, and is also the most better off out of them. So, if you do want to go Mediterranean at any point, but want to avoid the expenses of the European Mediterranean, but also want to stay safe, then you should give your vacation money to Tunisia or Algeria. Slightly, it's slightly not as great in Algeria, but it's one of my arbitrary favorite countries, and it's getting better very quickly, anyways. And let's see. I know I'm forgetting about something. Oh yeah, Brazil. So in Brazil, not just stopping the deforestation via giving the Brazilian military something to do, finally, via draw Reaper drone. They're not using Reapers; they're using something else, but via drones, doing thermal oversight at night, finding the spots where dudes are doing stuff to clear the forest, and then the Brazilian army, whether regular or special forces, get to actually have something to do, get to have some fun, and they come busting in real quick on helicopters during the daytime or at night and round up and arrest everybody. So, apart from stopping the deforestation, Brazil is finally moving forward with mass restoration and reforestation projects. And after the reason for the delay was actually doing various experiments and studies for like a decade, trying to see the best way to plant things to make sure it would a restore, it would grow successfully and properly, and also that it would enable and attract the edge of the rainforest itself to then begin moving into the moderately reforested area and continue the work on its own naturally. So they've begun actually doing that, and they did 20,000 hectares, which is about 60 or 50,000 acres of space or so over the course of last year. And so, as the deforestation numbers continue dropping down via suppression through force, as it should be, and the reforestation numbers gradually now come into existence and begin climbing up, hopefully have a point a couple years from now where they'll meet each other and cross. And we can avoid the whole uh, Amazon question about losing 10% of the Earth's oxygen generation capacity. But then we have other areas to worry about. It's good to get the Amazon secured, but then we also have to worry about the Congolese rainforest, and then the fact that Indonesia has become suddenly untrustworthy, and they're doing government sanctioned, government mandated mass deforestation. We did get one bit of good news out of Indonesia, at least. So, a bit of compensation, I guess, in that they are now policing and stopping all of the various seabed vacuum hose dredge sand mining. They're stopping that and the mega seabed dredging just off the coast of the various islands that was being done because the tin ore deposits extend into the seafloor. They don't just stop where the water line is. And so uh, various groups, were going out and just like dragging stuff along the seabed offshore, destroying reefs and stuff, and destroying just the general ecosystem to get that tin ore, so that they could then smelt it and sell the tin on the tin black market, because there's a tin black market too. There's an everything black market. Okay, let's see. The people from 1914, to answer that question, would be horrified at the modern world for different reasons. It wouldn't really be the geopolitical situation that would horrify them. Well, some of it would. A lot of people, would be like British people would be horrified at the fact that the subjects of their empire are now actually free, along with the French would be horrified that the subjects of their former colonial empire are now actually free. A lot of people in the U.S. would be horrified at the fact that uh, black people and other non-white people have actual rights in the U.S. now. Every one of the European powers would be horrified that their designated zones of influence in China are gone, et cetera, et cetera. The Romanovs in Russia would be horrified not by 2026, but they would be horrified to find out what happened a mere 3 years after 2014, and the fact that their bloodline no longer exists anymore. What was this question? It The Ethiopian dam does not inherently affect Egypt's water supply just by existing. What it does is it presents a possibility that Ethiopia, if uh, going into a severe drought situation, decides to, they could just close off the outflows and start keeping the water back for themselves to compensate any severe drought situation, which, would kind of absolutely condemn Sudan, which is already destroying itself at the moment. That's, a subject for last stream, uh, and would absolutely condemn Egypt. And that is a risk that Cairo just does not want to allow to exist. But they are probably, like many others do, going to wait for a sort of most opportune moment when they feel they can most get away with it to bomb that dam. Like a perfect time to do it, for example, would be while Taiwan is happening, whichever year China chooses to do that invasion, since we, along with associated friends up north and out east, will be so headlong into that Egypt will probably figure that while we are dealing with that, they can do this really quick, bomb the dam, get it out of the way, and we probably won't care and won't punish them for it. And they are correct in their logic for assuming that, because in the midst of that, and even in the immediate aftermath of that, which is a far more impacting situation globally, we would probably not care and would not punish them for bombing the dam if they chose that moment to do it. And even if we did punish them, uh, if they did it during that time or any other time, even if we did quote unquote punish them, it would probably be theatrical, and we would probably more just remove somebody from power who is selected by the associated group of primarily military dudes in power, who then will not actually have anything happen to him, but will probably just end up living in a penthouse in Dubai or something. So, like, we'll probably pull a Maduro type abduction, but secretly the Egyptian leadership will kind of be in on it because we wouldn't want to actually do anything because we can't risk Suez Canal. We can't risk Egypt becoming a super destabilized place, like not necessarily even like Libya, but we don't want it to get like Libya either. But especially like we don't want it to turn into like a Sudan or Yemen situation because Israel is right there, and also, uh, you know, the regular Arabian oil heavy Middle East is right there, and Europe wouldn't want it because then millions of Egyptians would begin fleeing northwards, and Europe is already pissy about all the regular, uh, at first, Syrians and other Africans like Libyans from, much lower population countries, 7 million, 20 million, etc., fleeing to fleeing to Europe. If you then had that happen in the at the moment 108 million person Egypt, the wave that Europe would have to deal with would be way bigger than it was during the 2010s. Okay. Give me a second. Give me a second. I see there's cat stuff. Let me drink some water. Uh, the Egyptian Air Force. The Egyptian Air Force is I don't know what else they have, but I do know their primary thing is the F-16. For anybody who is for anybody who is not familiar with military stuff, the F-16 is this one. So not my favorite. My favorite is the F-15, which is the one I grew up with on Otis Air Force Base up on Cape Cod, the one my parents worked on. But this is the F-16. Egypt's Air Force is primarily F-16s, and they have a couple hundred. Like I think 200. I think they have 200. But yeah, with drop tanks, with external fuel tanks, from their southernmost air base, they could get down, bomb the dam, and get back. It would be cutting it close, but they could do it. If Sudan allows them to, which it potentially would, then they could, assuming based on current civil war lines, then The safest base they could probably use would be like there's one like northeast of Khartoum. They could use that one, go down for a really short flight, bomb the dam, and then come back, or fly all the way back up into Egypt. So, if the question is whether it's something Egypt could pull off, the answer is yes. Actually, Egypt has a few ships that can launch cruise missiles. So, actually, if they wanted to, they could also even just like arc off of Eritrea and launch cruise missiles at the dam. But I don't know what cruise missiles they have access to or their ranges, so they'd probably go with regular bombing. Oh, they have Rafales? Good. Finally, give France some purchases. Let's see. Uh, in the old world, in the pre-industrial world, you kind of could hold on to stuff forever. That's kind of why they were so mentally ingrained in it and refused any idea of letting it go. In the even even if you turn back time 100 years and consider the 1910s as modern, even in that iteration of the modern world, only like halfway through the journey of the humanity's industrialization and technological development process, even in that world, no, you could not hold on to stuff like that forever anymore. In the old world, you kind of could. That's kind of how some empires, lasted for like 500 years, because there's no real way pre-industrial revolution that uh, any rivals was like going to really get some kind of sudden edge on you, unless like the Mongol hordes, for example, you just get washed by like gargantuan impossible waves. Like usually the empire handoffs were like one empire handed off dominance to another, was usually stop buffering, was usually in the old world, pre-industrial, was usually more so to do with a empire, the previous empire, like we'll do, say, the Greek Empire, Alexander the Great, uh, would have, yeah, it was something like that. It was usually more to do with the previous empire uh, collapsed and self-destructed itself, not necessarily the new up new and upcoming one like defeated them through some magic new innovation. Again, most of the time, usually some sort of like fragmentation and dissolution had happened of the previous one, and then someone swept in to fill the spot. 20 24 Rafales. Okay, so they are still predominantly overwhelmingly relying on F-16s then. Uh, Storm Shadow is a combat jet missile though. I was talking about unless Canopy cell launched from warships. Hold on. Actually, hold on. I don't want to activate Google's AI. I don't want to give it any more usage numbers to boost itself with. Let's see. So blah blah blah. Air launched. Okay, it's no, it's only a jet carried missile. So no, that wouldn't be what's getting launched out of cruise missile cells or the VLS launch tubes on like frigates or destroyers or anything. But like I said, if they go for bombing the dam, they're probably just going to do actual bombing, as in they're going to drop literal bombs, because then you can do was a Mark 84 JDAM stuff, and you can get your 2,000 pounders on it. All right, I think that's pretty much the end of everything that we have here. Let me just check, see if there's any sudden updates. Uh, nope. Plus, I'm pretty sure it would pop up as a hashtag on the side if stuff had suddenly started yet. So it doesn't look like it's going to start while on stream, but it might not start tonight. Well, it might not even start tonight, anyways. Let's see. Okay, oil demand levels video and GP video form. I promise those are coming. They're actually like pretty much ready. I was just lazy yesterday, and I got close to being done with the editing process last night, and then I just kind of stopped, like as I'm almost done with it. So I'm sorry for that, but those will go up along with natural gas. We got the natural gas data, and I'll start grabbing the electricity data for technically last month, and then at the end of this month, usually on the 30th, the MCS should release. Actually, we should check. I used to have the direct link here. Is it out here? I don't see it. No, don't make me activate Google's AI. Anything you do activates their stupid AI now. In depth? Wait, okay. Hold on. Nope. All right, that's a thing. That's a map. I don't want a map. All right, fine. I'll just do a stupid search. Or wait, no. What am I talking about? You can just direct search it. Mineral minerals USGS. Come on, load. Load. Okay. Products. Should be the MCS. Data releases. Come on. Publications. Okay, this has literally everything. I don't want literally everything. I want MCS. Come on, give me the MCS. I didn't ask for the appendix. Why are you showing me 2021? Fine. Mineral. Is it commodity or okay, commodity singular. All right, yeah, it looks like all right, it's gonna be the end of the month then. Unless you come in and should be able to, if you refresh, nope. All right, still 2025. So that's not out yet, but that will contain all of the annual updates on mining data and output levels and everything. So we'll have both a stream and a video for that and the updates to those graphs once that data releases as well. Have anything else from anybody? No more questions, no super chats or anything. Then it looks like that's going to be it. All right. I'll give it 30 seconds for the normal delay, and then after that, if nothing happens, I'm going to cut it off. Right. Fif- 15 seconds. I can't, I have no way of telling you what the likelihood is on any specific night. The only, the, the major indicator of like eminent likelihood, like say this weekend, is the fact that most of the major airlines have suddenly, as of a few hours ago, announced that they're canceling and suspending all flights to and from the Middle East altogether. Like that's a decent indicator that someone's told them that something's about to happen. But like literally which specific day, that's not something anybody's going to give you. That they're going to strike at all? Absolutely. That's like 99.99%. As I've said a million times before, the removal of Iran as a quote unquote mal actor from the stage is something that's a lot of a lot of participants on the global stage want, including those who vocally publicly say they don't want it. They kind of do. So that was, yeah, that's something that was going to happen one way or another. All right, that is going to be it. So I'll see you guys on Monday or Tuesday, stream wise. We'll see if anything happens between now and then, and see if the curse of things abruptly happening about an hour after I